Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and my card for today is using some brand new dies from Simon Says Stamp DieCember release, which went live yesterday, and me and several other fabulous designers are doing a blog hop to celebrate, so I will have all the info for that in the description box below the video in my blog post, so the link will be the first one in the description box below. So I decided to use the new Birch Column wafer die, which is absolutely fabulous. And I die cut it from some Nina Desert Storm cardstock. And then the pattern paper I had was a piece from the Authentic Retro Christmas 6x6. I was really thinking I want to do something very masculine. And not totally Christmas themed, but winter themed. So I've got my cardstock die cut, my pattern paper, and then I pulled out, this is the cute snowflake stamp set. This came out I think last year from Simon Says Stamp. So I pulled that out and I'm using some of the smaller snowflake images from the set and stamping them directly onto this die cut cardstock with some Hero Arts Unicorn White pigment ink. I haven't done this in a while, but I love how white pigment ink looks on a craft cardstock. It's so nice. I just love it. So I did that, and as I was doing this, I was like, I need a little bit more definition. That pattern paper is very busy for this die cut, I was thinking, and I was like, how am I going to make this die cut stand out a little bit more? So I ended up die cutting it a second time from some white cardstock, and you'll see what I do in a minute. And then for my sentiment, there's the new Heartfelt wafer dies from Simon Says. So I die cut this first piece from black cardstock, and I don't end up using it. I'll get to that in a minute. But what I did with the Birch Column die cut here is I'm just applying some Tombow Mono Multi liquid adhesive to the back of the Desert Storm cardstock, and I'm overlaying it over the white die cut, but just slightly shifting it sideways a bit. So it peeks out a little bit, but not too much. So this is where I've said before, I really love my Tombow Mono Multi. It gives me those few seconds to do things like that, to kind of move things around, but then once it sets, it's set. You cannot move anything around. You cannot pull it apart. It will tear your cardstock. So I got it the way I wanted it. And then to adhere this over the pattern paper, I wanted to pop it up with some foam tape to give it that extra bit of dimension. So I had to trim down the foam tape to fit, but that worked perfectly because then I can use really thin little strips on the back of the trees. I was really generous with the foam tape just because of all of the open areas on this. I thought it would be best to put a really good amount of foam tape. And in the end, it was a very good thing. So made sure I had all the foam tape in place, and I'm going to adhere that directly onto that pattern paper there. And then, like I said, for my sentiment, I die cut it from the black cardstock, and then as I was putting it here, I was like, I don't like this. You can't even see it. With all that pattern paper and the die cut, it just wasn't showing up the way I wanted it to. So I just used one of the other words, because this die set has 3 different fonts, basically, all saying the word heartfelt. So I used the script font this time and die cut it from white cardstock. And I die cut it twice and just popped out all the centers of the second one and left it in the scrap. I just showed this in my 2 videos ago, how I like to leave the base basically of my die cut sentiments in the scrap of cardstock just to hold it in place, making it a little easier to apply my adhesive and to stack them together. So I'm just using my multimedia matte adhesive. Applied that, and then I'm able to adhere those 2 together, and then I quickly pop it out of that scrap cardstock just in case any adhesive is oozed out. I don't want to adhere it back into the cardstock. So once I'm done with that, I have just a scrap of black cardstock left over from that die cut that I didn't end up using, and I'm just stamping this tiny little sending flurries of, and it's really tiny. I actually originally, not on camera, tried embossing this with a super fine detail white embossing powder, but it didn't show up. This sentiment is literally that small and that detailed. So I just stamped it with that same white unicorn ink onto the black cardstock, trimmed it down with my paper trimmer, and I'm using my scissors, and I'm dropping things, and I made this card really late at night. I get really clumsy when I'm tired. But yeah, picked that up again, and then just using my scissors to cut little V-shape edges onto both ends of this. And then this is where I'm so glad I used all the foam tape that I did, because I ended up deciding last minute to stamp the word thanks directly onto the craft cardstock. And if I hadn't had the base of the foam tape under there, it would have probably bent and just messed up that whole sentiment, and then I would have had to come up with something else. But it worked, so I was glad. So I just decided to adhere the die cut sentiment with more multimedia matte adhesive. So got that into place, lined that up, and then I used the same adhesive to adhere the little sentiment strip that I had stamped. So made sure to adhere that into place before the other one could completely dry, because I kind of just lightly slipped it underneath the top of the sentiment there. So use the same adhesive, just squeeze a decent amount onto the back of that. And I was trying to avoid the actual sentiment itself because, it takes a while for pigment to dry, and that's the last thing I want to do is smear any of that. So got that into place, put an acrylic block over top so that it keeps it, the pressure keeps it all flat so it can adhere fully. And then my card base is the exact same Desert Storm cardstock, cut to 4 1/4 by 11, and then I scored it at 5 1/2. So it'll be a top folding A2 sized card. So this gives you an idea how big this birch column die is. It's just slightly over 5 1/2 inches in height. So it'll completely go across, as you can see, an A2 size card. So adhered that to my card base, and then to finish off the inside, I just stamped those same snowflakes with that same unicorn white pigment ink, and that finished off my card. So I will have a link below my video to the blog post. There'll be links to the other designers playing along. Make sure to check it out. There's giveaways going on. There's tons of inspiration. There's so many dies released in this, and they're just fabulous. So many good things. So check it out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, thumbs upping, and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.